Okay, so this could be part 3 to What if Deku became a kaiju? So let's get into it.
Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah.
So where I last left off, it was heroes versus villains. So let's continue. So Class 1A, they're on the bus to the USJ, and like normal, everyone is talking about their quirks or just like random stuff, and Sue would ask Deku about his quirk, and Deku would say like, "Oh, I just have an enhancement. It's nothing too special." And Sue would say like, "Oh, really? Like you say it's not special, but to me it seems pretty special since you have good control over it." And Deku would say like, "Well, just because I have good control over my quirk doesn't mean it's a cool one, or like it's special." And Sue would say like, "Yeah, I guess you're right." And I'm gonna say Bakugo would hear this and he would say like, "Yeah, but my quirk is a lot better than yours." And Deku would say like, "Yeah, I guess is your quirk is just explosions. It doesn't really do anything. It doesn't really enhance your body in any way, or it just allows you to like blast people away. Like I don't really see anything like special. It's a cool quirk, don't get me wrong, but I've seen like better quirks. So, and this kind of hurts Bakugo's ego, you know. It hurts his self-esteem, and Bakugo would get mad by that, and he would say like, "What did you say? Like, come over here and fight me." And Deku would say, "No, we're on a bus, and plus we're on field trips, so like get it together." And Aizawa would like hear them arguing, and he would say, "Bakugo, settle down." And Bakugo would just like scoff and sit down. Eventually, they would get to the USJ, and they would meet the Hero 13, and Deku, he's not really paying attention, mostly because he's had like a few encounters with 13, and they don't like 13 hates Kaiju number 8, which is Kaiju. I mean Deku, not Kaiju. Yeah, so like she like the Hero 13 hates Deku, but she doesn't know that Deku is Kaiju number 8. So like they've had like a couple of encounters with each other, not really good ones. Most of the encounters have ended up the Hero 13 trying to capture Deku. Well, all of the times. Yeah, all the times she has been trying to catch Deku with using her quirk. And she has almost like she almost managed to catch Deku a couple of times. But Deku was able to like escape from her like quirk, which is black hole. And like he managed to escape all the times, but a few times he almost got caught in the black hole. So he like doesn't pay attention to her, and he just looks around the USJ. And as he's like just browsing, like just looking at the USJ, he would see a portal open, and he would sense a kaiju. He says like in his head he says like there's a kaiju like around here, but it's but it seems different. And this is when Shigaraki and the rest of the villains would show up. Like they would come through the portal, and the Nomu would be there. And the Nomu is it's a bit different. For one, this Nomu it is more reptilian like. It's the same size, but it's more reptilian like. Instead of like a beak, he has a snout, and his brain is not is it's still exposed, but not as much. His their like the eyes are more reptilian like, and he's and it's a lot, I guess, thinner, but still the same height, and like it's stronger though, and it has like a couple of kaiju skins, scales, yeah, scales, not skins, and Deku would say like that's why I sense the kaiju, and this like I'm gonna say that they were able to get a couple of specimens of kaiju leftovers of when like the defense force and heroes like took them out, and when Deku took them out too, they were able to get like a few like samples, and they were able to like duplicate them, and they modified the Nomus with like kaiju DNA, I guess. So the Nomus are a lot stronger, and this one's a lot stronger than the regular Nomu, like in canon. And this is the Nomu would look up and he would see Deku, and the Nomu without even like giving a command, he charges towards Deku, and he's charging fast, and Deku didn't expect the Nomu to be this fast, and Aizawa turns around to see the Nomu about, and like Aizawa sees the Nomu, and Deku or not Deku, the Nomu would jump at Deku and pin him towards on the ground, and the Nomu would start like beating on Deku, and Aizawa would try to turn off the would not 13 would help Deku, but Aizawa would say like no 13, you won't be able to use your quirk, it would be too dangerous, and Aizawa would say like just get the students out of here, I'll take care of this. And as Deku was getting beaten by the Nomu would throw a punch, but then Deku would catch the punch, and I'm gonna say Aizawa got on top of the Nomu, and he would start like strangling the Nomu, like choking the Nomu with his scarf, and this would like get the Nomu off of Deku, and the Nomu would try to like get Aizawa off his back, and he does by basically RKOing Aizawa. Like he like jumps and he lands on his back, and Aizawa was on his back, and Aizawa got crushed, and and by that, like the Nomu didn't jump like regularly. The Nomu jumped really high up, and Aizawa would be crushed by the Nomu. His basically almost his entire body is broken, and he can't even move. And Deku would like run towards Aizawa, and he would say, Mr. Aizawa, are you okay? Aizawa would say like, oh, he can't even talk, and he can barely like move, and Deku would say like, stay down, I'll take care of this, and like Aizawa was just mumbling like, no, don't do this, Midoriya. But then Aizawa would pass out, and Deku would say like, well, like Deku would take Aizawa towards like where like the entrance of the USJ was, and he would lean him against a wall, and Deku would say like, well, since he's knocked out, I'm able to do this, and he transforms back into his kaiju form, and he would also know that all the students would be outside of the USJ, and they'll be like getting help or looking for help, or that's what Deku thinks. And then when like the Nomu would get back up and see Deku in his kaiju form, and the Nomu would just get even mad, like, and the Nomu would start rampaging. I'm sorry, but yeah, the Nomu would charge at Deku, and Deku would charge at the Nomu, and it would start fighting, and the villains are just like watching this go down, because Deku and the Nomu are like up the stairs, because in canon the villains were like all the way down the stairs, like in the center of the USJ, and but the Nomu charged at Deku, so it's now up the stairs, and the villains are just watching this go down. They're colliding they're colliding punches. They're using like their abilities. Like every time Deku would land a punch, the Nomu would not be like, it would seem like it would not be effective at all, because like the Nomu has scales of Kaiju along with shock absorption, so it's gonna take more than just a punch to affect the Nomu. And Deku would say, "Damn it! Like, why are my punches not doing anything to him?" And the Nomu would slash at Deku, but Deku would dodge the attack and like tackle the Nomu, like all. And when Deku tackled the Nomu, both of them would fall down the stairs. And the stairs, if you saw those in the anime and the manga, like they're really high. Like, yeah, like there's a lot of stairs. So like they're falling, and they're fighting as they're like falling down the stairs. But then Deku Deku would be pinned against the Nomu, and Deku's about to like hit the ground, but then Deku would get loose from the Nomu's grip, and the Nomu would hit the ground first. Deku would also hit the ground. Both of them would get back up, and they would continue fighting, and Shigaraki and the rest of the villains would realize who the Nomu is fighting, and they would say like, "Oh, that's Kaiju number 8." And they're just whispering and like just talking like, "Yo, that's Kaiju number 8. Like, what is he doing here?" And Shigaraki would say like, "This is getting annoying." And Shigaraki is also thinking like, "But how did the Nomu like start attacking without me commanding it? It really, like, even though it's brainless, like it doesn't think on its own. Like for some reason it attacked Kaiju, attacked the Kaiju." And Shigaraki would try to step in, like Deku would see Shigaraki about to like is charging towards him, but then like Deku is about to like full on punch him, but then Deku wouldn't want to like actually kill Shigaraki, so he would jump back, and then he would throw the punch, and it would just the punch wouldn't hit Shigaraki. It would just send like a massive air pressure towards Shigaraki, and Shigaraki would get sent back flying, and Shigaraki would hit the wall all the way across the USJ, and from that Shigaraki would get knocked out, and Kirigiri would say like, "Oh no, Shigaraki's hurt." And Kirigiri would look at the villains, and he would say like, "What are you waiting for? Go help or no, he would say, half of you go help the Nomu take down the Kaiju, and the other half help me get Shigaraki back to." No, he wouldn't say that. I'm sorry. All of the Kirigiri would say like he would tell all the villains to help the Nomu out, and Kirigiri would teleport Shigaraki back to the League of Villains base. And like since like Deku's fighting off like, I don't know, 100 people at once, including Nomu slash Kaiju. And like Deku, he's not having a good time. Like even though he's really strong, he's holding back because he doesn't want to kill anyone. Like because like every time he's attacking like the villains, like he knows like he can't go full power, so he just like kind of flicks them away. And even though it's just a flick, it still hurts the villains a lot, but not to the point that they will die. It just hurts, and they'll you yeah. So the Nomu, I will say this Nomu, like the Nomu would jump back and it'll get on his all four. Yeah, he would be on all fours, and he would spit like he would open his mouth and spit acid towards Deku, and Deku didn't know what it was until he felt the acid like melting his kaiju skin and his scales, and Deku would say like, "Oh, what is this stuff?" And he would say like, "This is acid," and the Nomu would start shooting more acid at Deku, and Deku would be dodging, but the acid would also get like some acid would get on Deku, and Deku is trying to avoid like the acid along with the villain's attacks, and he's just like flicking him away, slightly like kicking him away, and like swinging them away with his tail, and his tail is a lot longer now, along with his horns and spikes on his back. And yeah, so Nomu would charge at Deku, and Deku would charge at the Nomu, and the Nomu would move to the left of Deku at the last minute, and the Nomu would bite down onto Deku's shoulder, and like since like the Nomu's bite force, it's extremely powerful. Yeah, there you go, powerful, and this actually would tear through or like pierce Deku's entire kaiju like skin and scales, and and Deku can basically feel the teeth in his like actual like arms, like his human arms, and Deku would let out a scream, but since he's in his kaiju form, it would be a loud roar, and the glass from the USJ would break, like it would just shatter. And since the USJ is just like a dome of glass on top, I'm sorry, but yeah, like I said, the USJ is just a big dome of glass, and all that glass would just shatter. And I want to say Ida was getting All Might, and as Ida's running back to the USJ, and he's not that far away, but he would see like the glass from the USJ just shatter, and he would also hear the roar, and he would say like, "Oh no, like what's happening now? Like I hope they're doing okay." And Aizawa, he's just been like unconscious there the whole entire time. But then like he would open his eyes a few times, and he can barely see, but he can slightly make out Deku with in his kaiju form, and he would say like kaiju number 8, and he would just like go back to being unconscious. Meanwhile, even though like Deku has been trying to use his full power, but most of the time the kaiju would be using like the villains as shields. So when Deku tried to punch the Nomu would get behind like some of the villains, and Deku wouldn't be able to like use his full power because he doesn't want to kill them. So like Deku's having a rough time, and he's just trying to think of different ways. And I would say the Nomu would just sprout wings. I'm just gonna say that. And Nomu would just start flying towards Deku, and Deku would say like, "What? It has wings." And the Nomu would pick Deku up, and the Nomu would just fly straight up into the sky, and Deku was just letting out this huge roar. Like it could be heard from miles, and like the entire class is just hearing this monstrous roar, and they're saying like, what, there's a kaiju here. And they would, I'm gonna say, one of them would say like, hey, look up, you guys look up. And they would look up, and they would see the Nomu and Deku all the way in the sky. And but since Deku's in his kaiju form, they don't know it's him. And they just see this thing just flying up with a kaiju. And I will say one of them would recognize Deku as Kaiju number 8. Like they would see the Kaiju form, and they would say like, "Yo, that's Kaiju number 8." And Class 1A is like saying like, "What, really?" And they're trying to get a closer look. And some of them would also see that it's Kaiju number 8. They would say like, "What? But what is there? What is the Kaiju doing here?" And then they would realize that is not with them, and they would say like, Where's Midoriya?" And they would just start looking around. They would say like, "No, like, he didn't come outside with us. Like, do you think that he's fighting the villains all by himself?" And 13 would say like, "Calm down. I'll go look for him." And I will say Kirishima would say, no, I'm gonna say Baki would say like, "I've had enough just standing around here. I'm going to beat down those villains." And Kirishima would say like, "Yeah, me too. I'm not gonna stand by just to see one of our classmates get beaten. Like, that's not happening." So both of them would charge in, and 13 would say like, "No, wait." And when they open, like, they bust through the doors, and they see Aizawa just there on the wall, like leaning on the wall, like unconscious. Kirishima would run up to Aizawa, and he would say, "Mr. Aizawa, are you awake? Are you okay?" He would like sort of shake Aizawa. Aizawa would wake up. He would say like, "Well, Kirishima, like, don't do that to me. Like, I'm really hurt right now." And Kirishima would say like, "I'm sorry, sir, but what happened?" And Aizawa is trying to explain the best as he can. Even though he's in pain, he's still trying to he's still trying his best to explain what happened. And he would say like, Deku was attacked by a Nomu, or by a thing, like, I don't even know what it was. And I try to help him, but like I try to help him, but the thing or monster, whatever it was, a kaiju, I don't know, but it crushed me, and it broke most of my bones in my body. And Kirishima would say like, "What? Like, are you serious?" And Aizawa would say, "Yeah." Then I blacked out, and then I woke up I can faintly like make out someone or something, but I'm pretty sure it was Kaiju number 8. And and Kirishima would say, "Kaiju number 8? Yeah, we saw Kaiju number 8. He took off into the sky with I think, the monster that you were talking about." And Aizawa would say, "Really? Like, but where's Midoriya?" And they would say like, "We don't know. Like, he didn't come out with us when we evacuated." And then Bakugo would say like, "I've had enough. I'm going to teach these villains a lesson." And he blasts off, and the villains are just chilling there. They're like just watching a fight go down in the sky. And meanwhile, like, Deku and the kaiju are still flying up, but and Deku's trying to loosen the Nomu's grip, but every time he would try to do something, the Nomu would tighten its grip, and it would start piercing through Deku. But I want to cut back to the USJ. The villains would hear someone screaming like "Hey!" and they see Bakugo just blasting down the stairs, and they would say like, "Oh, great, another kid." It's like, hopefully this time he's not a kaiju. And no, they wouldn't say like they wouldn't say that. They would say like, well, at least it's not a kaiju. And Bakugo would say like, what kaiju? Like, what are they talking about? And then Bakugo would say like, they're probably talking about kaiju number 8. And Bakugo would start fighting the villains, and Kirigiri and Shigaraki, they already left. Like, they're already at the villain base, and they just left, and everyone that they recruited just there. So I'm gonna cut back to Deku. Deku, he's just in the sky. He's in the sky, trying to loosen the Nomu's grip, and then they're almost into space. I'm not like they're almost into space. Deku can, both of them, they can see like the curve of the planet, and this is when the Nomu would let go of Deku, and Deku's just free falling, and then the Nomu would do a circle in midair, like he would spin, and he would start diving towards Deku, and Deku would try to avoid this attack, but the Nomu would just hit Deku, and now they're falling even faster because the Nomu's putting is just he's making them go fast, falling faster. So the Nomu and Deku are Deku's trying to fight the Nomu, but the Nomu he's the Nomu's is holding on to Deku, and it's basically he has the Nomu's holding on to Deku on his side, and every time Deku would try to hit the Nomu anywhere, the Nomu would just tighten his grip like he did, and they're just falling towards the earth, and they're catching fire. They're catching on fire, and it just looks like a meteor. Class 1A just looks up, and they just see what they think is a meteor, and they'd say wait, is that a meteor? And they're just in disbelief, and Deku would hit the Nomu with 100%, and this would this attack would make a shockwave and make the Nomu lose its grip, and now Deku's just falling, and the Nomu would go for Deku again, but Deku would move out the way, and he would get on the back of the Nomu, and just start tearing into the Nomu. The Nomu would try to get Deku off its back, but Deku would not would have a firm grip on the Nomu, and they're just falling, and Deku is tearing through the Nomu's flesh, and the Nomu has super regeneration, and also the Kaiju scales, and I will say that enhances it enhances the abilities of the Kaiju, and also quirks. I'm just say that. So it's enhancing its regeneration, and so Deku would say I guess I have to I guess I have to attack him a lot faster. So Deku would start slashing at the Kaiju even more, and I would say Deku would try to find a weak spot, and he does. I'm gonna say it's on on the Kaiju's neck, or on the Nomu's neck, and he would start tearing, like slashing at the neck, and the Nomu would start lighting off a roar too, and both of them are getting close to hitting the ground. They're like at like building level, and they're higher than that. So the Nomu would get Deku off its back and would grab Deku by the leg and throw him towards the ground, and Deku crash lands, and he makes a giant crater. The Nomu also crash lands because, like, I would say he was just falling and he couldn't, like, fly. Like, he tried to fly, but he couldn't. So it crashed. Deku would get back up and he would say, like, oh, that kind of hurt. And the Kaiju, or not, well, the Nomu, sorry. The Nomu, I must say, like, they're still by the USJ, but I'm gonna say, like, there's a forest by the USJ, and then they're in the forest right now. So the Nomu would come out of nowhere and attack Deku. Deku would block its attacks, but then the Nomu would start, like, slashing at Deku, and Deku's scales would start, like, falling off and peeling off. And now it's like Deku just has, like, basically his Kaiju skin, and that's only the thing that's protecting it. It, like, Kaiju, like, his skin it's durable, but it's not indestructible. But so the Nomu would start, like, tearing through Deku's skin, and Deku's just, like, screaming and laying out roars. And Deku would kick the Nomu off of him, and the Nomu would get sent through some trees. Like, the Nomu would break trees as he's, like, getting, like, pushed back from the kick that Deku attacked him with. So then Deku would get back up, and Deku, I would say, like, he does have regeneration, but it's just like his regular ability that he gained with his with his Kaiju form, but it's really weak. It's nothing like the Nomu or, like, Wolverine. It's like a simple regeneration. It takes, like, a little bit of time to, like, heal up, like, wounds. So then Deku's just, like, regenerating slowly. Then the Nomu would start, like, they're at a stalemate, and they're just looking at each other. And Deku would say, like, I think I'm gonna have to end it with one final attack. And at the same time, both of them would roar at each other, and both of them would charge at each other. And Deku has been absorbing all the, like, all the force that all the attacks that the Kaiju has thrown at him, and he's charging kinetic energy up in his right arm as much as he can, and his arm is glowing, just full on glowing, and, like, sparks are coming off of his body, and, like, full on, like, light thunderbolts are coming off of his, like, right arm. And the Nomu, I would say the Nomu's arm would get even bigger, kind of like how Alpha One did, like how he made his arms bigger with his quirks, but it doesn't look like that. It just looks like a big arm, I guess. So they would collide, and this would make a huge shockwave, but Deku's punch was a lot stronger, and the Nomu's arm, and along with the Nomu, it would just explode. So Deku would get pushed back by the the shockwave, and Deku would get knocked out. Cause I'm gonna say he just detransformed, and he got knocked out. So Deku would wake up, and he would be in a hospital, and I'm gonna say like Aizawa, I'm gonna say Recovery Girl, and Nezu would be there, and Aizawa would say like, Midoriya, are you okay? Deku would say, yeah, I'm fine. Are you okay? No, Aizawa wouldn't be there. What am I saying? He's like his almost his entire body is broken, so he wouldn't be there. So I'm gonna say just Nezu and Recovery Girl are there, and like a few doctors. And Nezu would say, Midoriya, are you okay? And Deku would like try to like get up, but he couldn't, because like he's feeling too much pain right now. And I would say, like, yeah, he's feeling pain, so he couldn't get up. And the doctors would say like, take it easy. You got pretty beaten up, so you should rest for a bit. And Deku would say, oh, okay. So Nezu would say like, what happened when we found you in the forest next to the dead body of, I don't even know what it was, kaiju, or it didn't seem like a kaiju, but it had scales of a kaiju, but it wasn't a kaiju. He explained to me what happened, and Deku would say like, he would explain that he was fighting the Nomu, and I think Deku would say Nomu, and Nezu would say like, huh, Nomu. So it was brainless, and Deku would say no. Technically, he does have a brain. It was exposed on top of its head, but even though like it was called a Nomu, but that's what the villain called it. It acted on its own for some reason, and Nezu would say, "Huh, interesting." Now, we did some data, like some DNA testing on the Nomu, and it's like it had human DNA, and Deku would say, really? And Nezu would say, yeah, it was like the body of the Nomu was actually a low level villain that got killed, but somehow it we thought he was dead, but the test shows that it was him. Deku would say like, he would say in his mind like, really? But so how did, and Nezu would also would say something. He would say like I said, like, since it also had kaiju DNA, so it had scales. No, he wouldn't say it had scales. Well, they would think that it had scales. Nezu would say like, did the Nomu have scales? Deku would say yes, it did. And Nezu would say, so like, what did it look like? Because we have we did a 3D model of what we thought of how we thought how it looked like, and Nezu would show Deku the 3D model, and it's similar, but Deku would say like, that's close, but it's not. It wasn't entirely like that. I would say Deku would say it was a lot thinner, a lot less muscular, but still extremely strong. And Nezu would say, huh, one final thing, Midoriya. And Deku would say, yeah, What is it? Nezu would ask, how were you able to fight this Nomu if you're saying it was extremely strong? Like, don't get me wrong, I don't think you're weak, but considering of what happened and all the destruction it caused, how were you able to fight the Nomu? And that's where I'm gonna end it off here. And should Deku reveal his identity as Kaiju number 8 to Nezu? Or should he keep it a secret? That's the question I have for you guys, and you guys can answer it in the comments. So yeah, I hope you guys like this part. Make sure to subscribe, like, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
That body, baby, show me.